Hey everybody, what's going on? So those virtuous paragons over at Twitter decided to whip out the ban hammer and go swinging away at the alt-right, get those pesky flies out of here, those mere mortals, those people with those improper opinions, um, and is basically done. I guess you could describe it as a purge. I mean, it's probably a bit, hyperbolic because it's just fucking Twitter. Um, but yeah, it was basically a purge. They're trying to get rid of the alt-right um, on social media. I'd be very surprised if something um, doesn't similar doesn't something similar doesn't happen on Facebook and other kind of big groups or big companies. A lot of these tech companies, they're pretty firmly in the progressive uh, basket. They're not even they don't pretend to be objective. Well, I guess they do pretend to be objective, but they're very with actions like this. They're rapidly losing that veneer of neutrality that they try to peddle. I haven't found any examples of any of these people who were banned, and to name a few people, it's Pat Dickinson. He works over at WeSearch, Radx Journal, which is Richard Spencer's. I think it's his blog. I probably should have looked it up ahead of time. Oh well. So their official Twitter account, their company's Twitter account was banned. And Richard Spencer himself, he's kind of the biggest high-profile guy. He's the guy who originally did coin the phrase alt-right, although I don't think he considers himself the leader of it or anything like that. But he's the guy who phrased the original term. So, like I said, this is just going to create a big Streisand effect. This is not going to be very effective in the long run. Because what's going to happen now is that a lot of people, who they might not have really been interested in the alt-right before, or any of the other quote-unquote shitlord or red pill groups of people on the internet, whatever phrase you want to describe them with, they might not have been interested before, or they might have heard about it and thought, well, whatever, not really my thing. But this story that they're now prattling on about a lot in the mainstream media, it's going to reach a lot of new ears, a lot of new eyes. People who might not have been inclined to search up any of these names before will have heard about this and will now at the very least be very interested to see what exactly it was that got these people banned. And why would they be banned seemingly for just having an opinion. And I do think it was just an opinion. I can't find any examples for the life of me. If you know of one, post it down below. Let me know. But it doesn't seem like any of these people who were banned. It doesn't seem as if Twitter has cited any tweets that they sent in which they were violating the terms of service. Now, I know the terms of service does have something to do with hate speech and don't wish violence on people, something like that. But I'm not aware of anyone even writing anything like that. Even if you wanted to make the argument that somebody like, for instance, Richard Spencer, who is a bit of a prick, honestly, even if you want to make the argument that he has those views, what has he said? Has he told anyone, to go die or something cartoonish like that? I don't think so. I've tried looking for something that they were trying to encourage violence, anything to compare to the death wishes and death threats that are being directed towards Trump supporters and people who are in this kind of alt populist movement on the right. Threats being given to them or being thrown from people on the left. They're, of course, not getting banned. So yeah, this Streisand effect that they're going to create, it's going to create a contrast and make the alt-rightists look like the victims, basically. It's going to engender a lot of sympathy for them. And one of these days, the media and the regressive left, they've got to figure out that a lot of different people with very different views don't like them. And by never making any attempt to acknowledge the distinctions between any of these groups, they end up just enforcing a sort of coalition, if you will, of people who, all right, they might normally they wouldn't agree, but they're all going to move forward against you regressives, because you keep pissing them off and you hate them all equally. I don't think for a lot of SJWs they even understand the distinctions between, say, a classical liberal like Dave Rubin or Sargon of Akkad, a populist like myself, a conservative like, say, Steven Crowder, an alt-rightist like Richard Spencer, or a libertarian like whoever, just keep going down the list. I don't think they make any distinction between any of these ideologies. To them, it's all just fascism. It's all just supremacy. It's all just misogyny. It's all just blah 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 blah. And it's one of the reasons that this is what's pissing off so many different groups of people who, like I said, normally wouldn't really be theoretically getting along with each other, but they're putting aside their differences and just moving, even if not necessarily in the same direction, then at the very least on the same road. I guess that metaphor kind of fails, whatever. I think you know what I mean. They're cooperating at least and networking across ideological lines, because the thing they have in common is that you fucking suck. Your ideology sucks. Like, your ideology is going after everybody else, or not your ideology. You people are going after everyone who disagrees with you. You make no attempt to respect people's opinions, even if you find them abhorrent. Like I said, I don't think Richard Spencer is, I don't want to say unintelligent, because he's clearly smart, but I don't agree with his conclusions very much. I think he's off base on a lot of his suggestions for what he wants to have, how he wants to handle multiculturalism and whatnot. But what the fuck has he done? He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done a single thing. None of the people on this Twitter, these casualties on this Twitter banhammer party, I'm not aware of any of them actually having done anything. So why would you punish them? I mean, they're trying to punish them because they want to cut their resistance movement, cut it at the knees, and yank out the roots. I think that cat's pretty out of the bag at this point. There's no going back. The genie's come out of the bottle, and it's getting more and more acceptable to criticize the progressive movement and criticize the social justice ideologies than it ever has before. I remember when I first got, I guess, invested in all of this a few years ago. Nobody knew what the fuck I was talking about. It was really Gamergate that kind of kicked me down the hill, if you will. And you could find people online talking about it, but in general, everyday life, people had no fucking clue about any of these, safe space trigger warnings. What are you talking about? Now, like, there's a lot of people I know. Maybe it's just my personal circles. It's probably not a perfect pool of representatives to draw from. But a lot of people I know who I know for a fact are not very tech savvy. They're not very interested in the internet. They're just starting to see that you people are censorious pricks. You're just pricks, and you just treat everyone like shit, and you create your own enemies. So this I think, is going to engender a lot of people to be sympathetic to the alt-right for whatever, for good or ill. People are going to start feeling bad for them because you're the one treating them like shit. Now, I think that's about all I have to say. I think it's a pretty straightforward example. Well, I guess one more comment I'd have to make. I'd remind people that they did this, Twitter specifically did this 6 months ago, or give or take 6 months, around the summer, with Milo. And at least with Milo, they at least had the courtesy to lie about what happened. For those who don't remember, they said that Milo Yiannopoulos was threatening Leslie Jones, the one of the chicks from the Ghostbusters Suckage movie, the Suckfest. That was the Ghostbusters remake. At least they had the courtesy of lying about what happened. They tried to say that he encouraged a hate mob to go after her. Totally not true. A lot of shit posters follow Milo, and when he saw that, when they saw that he was getting into a debate with Leslie Jones, they posted a bunch of, mean-spirited, some of it kind of racist shit at her. All right, it's kind of bad, but Milo didn't do anything. He wasn't responsible for what those followers did. They still kicked him off. It doesn't seem that they're even bothering to do that. It doesn't even seem like they're trying to provide an excuse. Their censorious nature, their totalitarian instincts are just becoming more and more naked. They're not attempting nearly as often or as thoroughly anymore that I can see. They're not attempting to cloak what they mean to do when they have the power to do it, which is to censor people, to take away their the ways they can express themselves. And the great irony is that this creates the biggest monsters that they keep claiming to fight. You want to create a fascist, take away people's peaceful means of negotiating and solving problems around them. You take away the peaceful means, congratulations, you will create a lot of Nazis really quick. You might be surprised. And of course, by that time, all the moderates or people who are, I don't want to necessarily say in the middle, but people who have different takes, you will have forced them to the edges, to the point where they're just going to fall in line with the big extremist movement that you helped to engender. So good fucking job, you bunch of cock-sucking idiots. You're digging your own grave here. Part of me just feels tempted not to try to help you anymore. Just let you do it, because I'm just kind of an vindictive bastard like that, I guess. But at the same time, it's just shitty that they keep doing things like this. It's stupid because they think it's going to change anything, and it's not going to change a damn thing. The Rebel Alliance has arisen. The populist movement is coming. And regardless of what you might think of people like Richard Spencer or other alt-rightists and what their opinions and views are, in the short term at least, you have to be willing to cooperate with them, because the regressive left, as they've just demonstrated with this Twitter purge of the alt-right, this, I don't know, the tweets of the long knives or something like that. Night of the long tweets, how about that? Night of the long tweets. They clearly need to be removed from the cathedrals of the culture. They clearly need to be driven to the edges of polite society and recognized to be the censorious bastards that they are. And we'll figure out the details maybe a little bit later. We'll iron out exactly what comes afterwards. I think it's why a lot of people probably voted for Trump. It's they're driving us into a swamp, and it's forcing people to take chances that maybe under a normal situation they just wouldn't be willing to. Under a normal situation, they might not be willing to cooperate with people of certain viewpoints and opinions. But you're creating such a hostile environment for anybody to disagree with you that you're forging the rods that will be used to whip you in the back when you no longer, and you being these SJWs, when they no longer have the protection that's afforded to them with being in charge of the cathedrals of the culture. When they can no longer dominate the narrative, which is to say when they can no longer dominate the narrative, they're going to find themselves with very little public support, because they'll no longer be able to control what people hear and what people say. That's about all I got, everyone. Take care.